ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Sitting in tonight, Diane Sawyer.
Good evening. We begin with a sudden burst of diplomatic activity aimed at heading off a military confrontation in the Persian Gulf. It comes 2 weeks and a day before the deadline for Saddam Hussein to get out of Kuwait, with Washington and Baghdad unable to agree on a date to speak to each other, not to mention what they might say. At least 4 separate attempts appear to be underway to help open a dialogue. In Baghdad, ABC's Sheila McVicker.
The new round of diplomacy is aimed at getting Baghdad and Washington to the table to talk. Even Washington's closest allies are now willing to intervene.
It would be an enormous pity if these talks between the United States and Iraq don't come off.
On Friday, members of the European community, including Britain, will meet in an emergency session. It's expected they will authorize European meetings with the Iraqis, but deny there is any split in the alliance.
There will be no wage driven between Europe and the United States. He has to leave Kuwait.
Diplomats here also expect others, including King Hussein of Jordan and the Algerian president, to try again to mediate between Saddam Hussein and President Bush. But in meetings this weekend between Saddam Hussein and Yugoslavia's foreign minister, diplomats say the Iraqi leader used stronger language than in the past. Diplomats say Saddam told the Yugoslav Kuwait was Iraq's forever, that promises of a peace conference were not enough. He must have something concrete. Tonight, Iraq's information minister said his government will feel no pressure as the UN's January 15th deadline for withdrawal from Kuwait approaches.
15 January, only in mind of Bush. Here in ourselves, in our mind, it is normal, like today, like tomorrow or after tomorrow.
Diplomats say it could take a week or more for these new efforts to produce results, if any. And so far, there's no public evidence that either side is willing to compromise. Sheila McVicker, ABC News, Baghdad.
Just 2 weeks ago, the European community debated and rejected the idea of holding separate talks with Iraq. It was felt that separate discussions might be seen as a crack in the international coalition. In Washington, ABC's David Ensor reports on what the administration says now that the Europeans have changed their minds.
American officials say they are confident that if a European emissary goes to Baghdad, he would carry the same message as Secretary of State Baker: get out of Kuwait or be forced out after January 15th. And there is an indication that Iraq may now be more flexible on dates for visits by Baker to Saddam Hussein and by the Iraqi foreign minister to President Bush. Senate Republican leader Dole says he was told by Iraq's ambassador to the U.S., Mohammed al-Mashat, that Iraq no longer insists on January 12th as the only date Baker could come to Baghdad, a date the U.S. says is too late. He could come earlier, al-Mashat told Dole. So far, the Bush administration has pushed to have Baker go to Baghdad no later than this Thursday, January 3rd. But White House officials note today that they have never ruled out high-level contacts after that. They are waiting to hear from Iraq. Secretary Baker may be in the region soon in any case. He is considering a trip to Saudi Arabia and other allied nations, officials say, possibly before the UN's January 15th deadline for the Iraqis to get out of Kuwait. David Ensor, ABC News, the State Department.
And for the 4th time in a month, Iraq has called up more reserves, this time 17-year-olds who've been told to report for duty by January 10th. When we come back, New Year's Eve in the Gulf. Vice President Quayle spends a day with the troops. In California, the eve of a tough new gun control law, some owners are saying no. And a farewell to the year gone by.